You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are The Breakfast Club. We have a special guest in the building.
One of my favorite people in the whole goddamn planet.
Mr. Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh,
Welcome back.
Thank you.
How are you, sir?
I'm very well.
How's life been?
Good. Yeah. I just, my second season of my podcast just launched.
Nice.
Visionist History. So I'm very excited about that.
Don't try to control the conversation. We're going to get to that. I was
Just thought I'd slip it in. You never know with you guys. It'll go off in some weird
going to ask you
direction.
about your sex life, first and foremost.
What?
Now, revision. Yes, the podcast is coming back. When is it coming out?
We got episode 3. They drop on Wednesday nights at midnight.
Okay.
So we got 10 episodes, and episode 3 is about to drop. That's this week, and it's about the Brown decision.
Wait a damn minute. Hold on. It already started back?
Yep. Oh yeah. I got 2 already.
Why the hell I ain't get my dates?
Episode 1 was my attack on white guys who play golf, and then
You attack white guys that play golf?
I did.
So you attacked the whole golf industry.
I got every white golfer in the country mad at me. It was fantastic.
Why? Why don't you like
No,
white
actually,
guys that play
it was
golf?
a very specific thing. It was all about, when you go to L.A.
A good walk spoiled.
A good walk spoiled.
Okay.
You go to L.A. and you drive around and you see all those massive private golf courses. They're like 300 acres in the middle of Beverly Hills. You ever wonder how they exist? How on earth can you pay property taxes on 300 acres in the middle of Beverly Hills? The answer is they don't pay property taxes. So you've got a club which has got 300 members, all of whom are very wealthy, privileged people living in L.A., and they've cut a deal with the city and the state that they essentially get their private course for free. So I just I don't know.
The people
that
who can
struck me as
afford it the most
interesting.
get the free acres, and
That's messed
But
up.
how,
That's
though?
crazy.
Like, why? How can you convince the
That's-
city that they can get it for free? Like, what? I don't
That's
believe
what
convinced.
That's what it means to be a rich white guy.
Yep.
There is it's this incredibly long, complicated story. But basically, they pulled 2 moves. One, they got a constitutional amendment passed to the California Constitution, protecting golf courses from from sort of normal taxation. And the second is they got a special legal ruling, which means that, so for example, LA Country Club, which is it's 300 acres in Beverly Hills, is probably worth $9 billion. That just the land. You know how much they pay in property taxes every year? $200,000.
wow.
That's ridiculous.
What?
It's unbelievable. But the whole podcast is just all about if you are a privileged, white, powerful person in the world, you can get basically what you want. You just have to. You're running the system, right?
Yeah, I never understood that whole logic of like rich people not having to pay for anything. Like, like rich people get everything free.
They do.
You get clothes sent to you. You don't have to pay for anything.
You get great tax breaks.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I've never understood it either. The richer you get is true. The more things people. I see it. You got a little gift yourself there, Charlotte.
His
Oh
birthday's
yeah,
tomorrow.
Gary, my birthday is tomorrow, and Gary Vaynerchuk gave me this today. Yeah.
Case in point.
Why golf though? Why was that the symbol?
Well, because so the taxpayers of LA subsidize the private golf courses of LA to the tune of millions of dollars every year. So I'm a runner. Whenever I go to LA, I want to run on the golf courses. My point is, look, if the taxpayers of LA are subsidizing these courses, why don't they open them up to people to walk and run and walk their dogs and play
please,
Frisbee a couple
never.
days a week? Just a couple days a
We
week.
can't have doo-doo where the white people golf.
That's right. Well, in other countries, golf course, like in Toronto, my hometown, the fancy private course, it shuts down in the fall and opens again in the spring, and the entire winter it's wide open to anyone who wants to use it. Go for walks, go tobogganing, go skiing, going whatever. And in Scotland, the most famous golf course in the world is open on the weekends for people to do whatever they please. This is not uncommon.
Right.
It's only in America that we think that, Brentwood Country Club, where I would love to run, because it's right where I usually stay when I'm in L.A., has got a barbed wire fence around it, for goodness sake. And this is a course that's being subsidized by the taxpayers of L.A. Anyway, that's what
We got to keep you Negroes out, Malcolm.
No, that's exactly what's happening.
I always wondered. I mean, now that you say that, I always think about, is that the reason like a lot of golfers didn't really like Tiger Woods? Like they wouldn't fully accept him?
I wonder about that. He was in and I wonder whether we didn't think about that enough at the time, that he was in a really weird position because here he goes into the the widest sport in America outside of like sailing. And I mean, maybe sailing is, and he's the biggest star they've ever seen, and he don't look like them, right? And I don't know, I wonder. Tiger's obviously a really complicated guy and has gone through a lot, and I wonder whether that's not part of the burden he's carried around all these years.
Yeah, I got to know this kid who wants to do golf in the hood. He's this little kid from Boston, and he's trying to encourage more black people to golf because he said business deals happen on the golf course. He's like, it's good networking. You should be involved.
Yeah.
I see all kinds of charity events though now with like athletes and stuff doing all kinds of golfing charity tournaments and stuff.
Yeah. No, I got no problem with that. My problem was specific to the fact that you shouldn't get a tax break for your private golf course.
Right. No,
I mean,
I
you
feel
should
you.
pay your way.
Now,
Right.
Let me ask you this, Malcolm Gladwell. Are you familiar with a rapper by the name of Kodak Black?
I am not.
Okay, so
Why would Malcolm
Have I
Gladwell know
I'm
Kodak?
going to
Have I
ask him a question
disgraced
about
myself?
what he had to say because we had a conversation about this behind the scenes. So Kodak Black recently said some comments and he ended up deleting his Instagram and Twitter afterward because people got on him, but he's back. But he was talking about the type of women that he likes. He said, I don't like black women too much. And then he came back and said he only likes yellow hoes. He doesn't really like dark skin.
Yellow hoes, Malcolm, Mr. Gladwell.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I can
don't
see
really-
why he deleted his Instagram.
He said he really doesn't like dark-skinned black bitches, is what he said, right?
Yeah,
Now, there was a debate about whether or not he's wrong for having a preference.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, all right, but I want to hear what your thoughts on that are because, I feel like a lot of women will be like, okay, I like my men chocolatey, I like my men brown skin, and that's fine. And when men say, I like my women dark skin, brown skin women, or whatever. But I thought it was disgusting, the comments that he made. But I want to get your thoughts because I saw people arguing, well, what's wrong with him having a preference in what he likes?
Well, there's nothing wrong with him having a preference, but there's something really dumb about stating it publicly in such an offensive way, right? So it's a difference between you're allowed to all of us are attracted to very specific things, not for rational reasons, just because we are, right? But you don't go around and you don't explain it in such a offensive manner. I mean, that's just dumb. I mean,
What if that was his first instinct, Mr. Blink?
what? Well, I think if that's his first instinct, he should think twice about it. I mean, he's got to take a step back. And if he's especially if he's a public figure,
Right.
who, I mean,
Relies on all different types of women of all different shades
To buy his music.
and come to his
Yeah.
concerts.
it's just not very smart. But I think it's important to make that distinction, though. We all of us have a bundle of tastes and preferences that are sometimes weird and complicated, and and we should be respectful of the fact that people like different things in the world. But respectful is the key word,
Right.
Word.
and it's got to cut both ways. I'm respectful of your preferences, and you state your preferences respectfully.
I just referenced your book, Blink, and it kind of ties into this whole thing we were just talking about. You said in Blink, always go with your first instinct.
Not always.
Not-
when you have experience in a particular field,
Got you.
your first instinct is really useful. Where you don't have experience, your first instinct, it can be really problematic.
Got you.
Right.
So that's because that's what I see on social media a lot nowadays. People going with their first instinct.
Yeah.
But
It's a matter of so I had tons, when I was doing that book, I had tons of conversations with people in the music business. I thought it was really interesting. So if you're somebody, I have a friend who works for a record label, and he's been in that job 30 years. And I said, how long, when you're listening to a demo or some new song, how much of it do you have to listen to before you know this is something special? And he's like, I know almost right away. 5 seconds, 6 seconds. That's because he's spent 30 years in the business and his life is music and he's thought about music. For someone who knows very little about music, you can't, your judgment after 6 seconds
Right.
is useless.
got you.
So it's all about what you're drawing on when you jump to that kind of conclusion. So people who are experienced communicators, yes, they can respond really quickly. And you ever heard, I don't know, what the best example is, but if you're not, then your first instinct can be a real problem.
I agree with that too, especially when you have experience in the field. You always find yourself upset when you don't go with your first instinct. Like you start questioning yourself after you've been doing something for a while. You're like, well, maybe I could be doing this better. Maybe I should be doing this. And you start listening to other people and you start making mistakes
Yeah.
because you're not listening to yourself anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that the effect of experience on the way we make decisions is really a kind of a fascinating. I mean, you see it in sports, right? That's the I've always been fascinated with the fact that it takes point guards so long to reach their full potential, and that's because they have to make split decisions, right, in a fraction of a second, and you cannot master that by the age of 18. You haven't played enough basketball, right? You know, you have to see so many different scenarios and so many different situations and learn through so many different sort of episodes of trial and error before your first instinct can be incredibly useful and valuable.
Quick about basketball. I always wondered how you felt about Kevin Durant joining the Warriors.
Kevin Durant, I like the fact that players go where they want to go.
Okay.
I've had it with a system where some owner, who has no connection to the game other than the fact that he bought a team for a couple $1 billion, gets to order around people's lives. Like, I mean, I think that's bullshit. Kevin Durant wanted to go to the Warriors. He wanted to play with people who were really skilled. He wanted to live in the Bay Area. He wanted to get out of Oklahoma City. And by the way, who can blame him?
I'm not mad at him, but you know, at one point it gets to a point where is you want to compete. Like if I can't beat you, I don't want to join you. I'm going to keep trying to beat you and beat you and beat you and beat you. Like, that's just my competitive nature. You know,
Yeah.
I want to destroy you. Not as a person, but in this game. I want to bust your ass. Pause. You know? Like, that's how I feel. I don't want to, okay, well, I couldn't beat him. I'm going to join your team.
I'm gonna be
and
on
then-
the winning team.
You didn't let Malcolm finish answering the question.
I was just telling how I feel.
No. I would say I agree with that, but there's a second point here is that for someone like Kevin Durant, playing basketball is something that brings him joy, right? And playing basketball with Steph Curry and Draymond and Klay Thompson is his definition of heaven. That is, can you imagine what it feels like to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go on the court with those guys? So I can't deny him that. That is a whole lot more fun than playing with Russell Westbrook. I mean, it just is. And
I never looked at it like that.
it's just like when you come to work in the morning, how much of the joy you feel when you wake up is connected to the fact that you are doing the show with two people who you respect and are
Actually,
really.
I hate
no,
these
calm
motherfuckers.
down. I don't
Like,
know about
I really don't like them.
Turns out, not at all.
Basically, you want the whole team on a high level. Basically, it makes
It makes his life so much. I mean, look, here's a guy. He's really, really, really good at playing basketball. Why do we want to deny him the chance to play that at a level that brings him the most?
But is it fun? You know, because you're beating everybody. You know,
well, no,
Winning
for now,
sounds like
for
fun.
now.
for the next 4 years, 3 years.
Well, wait a minute. So what if LeBron goes to the Lakers in 2019 and attracts? What if the Celtics sign Paul George and Gordon Hayward? I mean, there's a bunch of scenarios where that team stumbles. They lost last year, and they had the greatest team we thought of all time.
17-9, you're
I
right.
don't know. I'm not so convinced that it changes the competitive structure of basketball forever.
Isn't it something to living up to expectation as well? Like, because when you're on paper, you're great. But isn't it something like that's living up to that?
I mean, they're going to have to go. They're going to be under the microscope next year, right? And they slip up, one injury. I mean, there's a bunch of scenarios. But I just watched him this season, and I just thought there was a man having the time of his life.
He was.
And I can. How can you deny him that? You know,
Happiness.
Happiness.
There you go.
That's all we want.
Now, do you think we should have the mentality that we are going to die one day? I've been thinking about that lately because I read a couple of books. I read one of Ryan Holiday's books, and I just finished reading Mark Manson's book, and they both talk about addressing your mortality. Do you believe that? Because I always believe the things you don't want to happen, you shouldn't think about.
Yeah, you're in a dark place right now.
The death is
You're an
inevitable.
awfully young man to be thinking about.
That's what I'm asking. Should I?
Should I? No, I don't think you should. I
Good.
think you've got. I mean, what? Realistically, what do you got left? 50 years?
50. I think about 50.
About 50?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this 45 years from now.
Yeah, what's going on?
No, I mean, I don't understand. You can't control when you die, so what's the point in dwelling on it?
I agree.
I mean, I'd dwell on the things, the difference you can make now when you're alive. It just bring you down.
Right.
Yeah, they say it gives you more of a sense of urgency.
Do you lack a sense of urgency?
No, I don't.
I didn't detect a lack of
Live
urgency.
every day like it's your last.
Yeah. I think you've already got that. I mean, if you were lying on a couch all day, I would say yes. You should think about your sense of
something with your life
mortality.
before you die.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that's your issue.
Got you.
I mean, you might have other ones.
Yeah, maybe some other ones, but not that. Yeah. Now, what's your next book going to be about? Have you thought about it?
I have.
Have you started working on it?
I have started working on it.
Okay.
Well, I started because I finished my podcast last week, and I started work on my new book this week. It's about strangers. It's about how do you deal. It's about our problem with dealing with people that we can't trust. Because it strikes me that we're with our friends. We have a set of strategies for dealing with our friends that work really well. But what we do is we then take those same strategies and we use them to deal with people who aren't our friends or who we don't trust or we don't know enough about, and it doesn't work at all. We get deceived, we get betrayed, and so I want to talk about why we're so bad with strangers, what goes wrong, and I have there's all kinds of really interesting directions you can go with that idea.
Isn't it
I
funny though?
treat
Because
strangers very differently than I treat my actual friends, though.
I know. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So sometimes, and that's a problem sometimes because our strategies for dealing with strangers can be very unsophisticated. And our strategies with dealing. So think about this. When you're dealing with a friend, someone you knew really well, your ability to interpret their moods is really quite extraordinary. Like, somebody may look angry, but they're not actually angry.
Right.
They're concentrating. Or they may snap at you, but they're not upset with me. They're snapping at me because I know they got 4 hours of sleep last night.
Also,
or that time, whatever.
Sometimes with my friends, I know. Or sometimes we joke around with each other a lot, and we know we can do that. But I wouldn't do that with a stranger because I know what my friends' limits are, and I know certain things they'll take a certain way, and we'll just go back and forth. But if I don't know you like that, then I'm not going to attempt that.
Well, when a friend deceives you, right? You know enough about them to know that that's not entirely on the up and up. But when a stranger deceives you, you have no basis for. You don't have any long experience with them. You have no way to. So that's a really kind of interesting problem. So about what do you do in a situation where you don't have the kind of knowledge necessary to make a sophisticated judgment about somebody? I mean, that's the general idea.
But you get so many mixed messages in life. They tell you to treat people the way you want to be treated and be kind to strangers. But when you're little, they tell you don't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what do you do?
I had this really fascinating thing happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and I went for a run in this park outside of town. And there's an 11-mile route and a 6-mile route. And I went on the 6-mile route and then halfway through realized I was on the 11-mile route. And it got dark. There's no lights in the park. It's in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, shit, right? I don't have any money on me. I don't have my phone on me. So I leave the park. It's now pitch black. I go to some intersection in the middle of nowhere. I'm soaked in sweat. I look like a crazy man. And I need someone
Hair
to drive.
all wild.
Right.
I need someone to drive me
That's
6
flat.
miles to my car. So I sit there at this intersection, and each car stops, and I go up and I knock on the window, and all of a sudden they see me, right? So like for 45 minutes, no one stops. And then I think, all right, so I should only ask really large men in pickup trucks because they're not going to be scared.
Right.
None of them stop. So finally I was like, this is getting serious, like 10 o'clock. So then I knock on everyone's door. You know who stops? An 18-year-old girl covered in tattoos driving a 15-year-old Honda who'd just come from church group. And I was like, so I had a sample size of like 50 people. The one who stops is the one person who shouldn't stop.
Absolutely.
Right? And she's like, rolls down the window and says, what's the problem? And I was like, I screwed up. She's like, hop in. And
A naive little girl.
But
I will beat my daughter's ass.
Me too.
But I thought about it. It's like she took a real risk. On the other hand, that is the world is going to reward her for that behavior.
Karma, energy.
That is like, and she turned out to be this lovely person. We had this fantastic chat. She was just open to experience. She was she looked at me and she was like, she said to me, she's like, don't do anything stupid. But then it was fantastic. I mean, I was like, there's something really interesting in that all these people, like the 6'6" guy in the pickup truck, who there is no way I could harm that man, would not stop. And yet this
You could have a gun though.
Can I hold your phone so I can download the Uber app for you?
I didn't have my phone. I didn't
He
have
have his phone. Let me ask you a question. You run a lot, right? Have you
Yeah.
ever got attacked or robbed or anything ever bad? Because you run off like a lot.
I do. No, I've never been. No, never been.
I don't want to
attacked.
put that out there. Not gonna
I
run
wouldn't
down,
say.
man.
I'm from Canada. No, people don't get attacked in
Would
Canada.
you tell that girl, listen, young lady, you're so lovely. Thank you so much, but please don't stop for any random strangers anymore.
I didn't say that to her, and I wondered about that, and I thought, but I didn't want to be the one to teach her to distrust the world, because I think that was the way she had chosen to construct her life. She was clearly a deeply religious person who felt that, she didn't have a lot of money. She's 18.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways in which she can do good in the world is to take chances on people who need help. I don't want to be the one to tell her not to do that.
Why are you so trusting, though? Why are you just so willing to jump in people's car?
He had no choice.
I had no choice. I didn't know where I was.
It wasn't by
I'm literally,
design.
you understand, I am 20 miles out of Nashville. I am in the middle of nowhere. It's 10 o'clock at night. I don't even know where my car is.
How come you don't bring anything with you when you go running, like some money?
Well, I thought it was a.
phone?
I thought
You
it
need
was
a fanny pack.
I thought it was. First of all, not wearing a fanny pack. A man has to have some pride. I'm not.
Hey,
gonna
I used to wear fanny packs when I was a kid.
Used to is the operative
you're right.
word.
Or some type
I
of
don't-
slim
I don't-
backpack or something. You need something to run with to.
No, I thought it's a 6-mile course that's a loop. So I figured I'd run the course and I'll come right back to my car. Little did I know, there's also an 11-mile course.
Right.
And it gets dark in Nashville.
This is how it's going to end for you, Mr. Gladwell. I can see. Malcolm Gladwell has gone missing after running.
I was very grateful. Her name was Alex.
You
Alex.
think you would stop for somebody?
No, that
in
was
that
the other thing.
situation?
And I was
No.
no, and that made me feel terrible.
Malcolm said, fuck that. I'm not crazy.
I would not have picked up me. Right? There's no way I would have picked up me. And as I thought about it, I was like, that there is something wrong with you, Malcolm, that you that's your attitude.
No,
You're-
but the world makes you that way, though. You hear all of these crazy stories. People are crazy. Like you just said, we can't trust people, especially strangers.
What is the story of the Good Samaritan? Who is the Good Samaritan? The Good Samaritan is the guy who is the outcast, right? He's from the group that everybody hates. The guy who stops and helps the guy who's been beaten up by the side of the road is the member of the minority who has been despised, and there's a lesson in that story, right? That Alex who picked me up.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Did she know you're Malcolm Gladwell?
No, I don't think so. We didn't talk about that. She just thinks I'm a guy who got lost, which was what I
Yeah.
was.
That's so crazy.
Did you ever see the movie A Clockwork Orange?
Oh, years ago, yeah.
I just think about her opening the door because the guy said his car broke down on the side of the
Oh,
road.
that's right. No, listen. If Alex had watched A Clockwork Orange, she's not picking me up. So let's not.
I can't believe she's so trusting. I would have called you an Uber, but I wouldn't have let you just jump in my car.
I don't know.
I've
If you,
helped people in other ways, but I think
Uh-huh.
bringing them into your space where they could potentially harm you.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying,
is
man.
something
It's interesting,
position
it's
that
funny.
I would feel like not like I've paid for people's groceries in the store.
Yeah.
I've let people do certain like pass me online in the airport if they're like whatever I can do that's small like that. I bought people food that's outside, but getting in my car.
My
where,
wife did that one time, and we got into a huge argument. She was driving from Virginia, and there was a girl on the side of the road, and the girl was like, "I need to get to New York. I don't have any money."
Now, if
And
it
my
was a
wife-
girl, maybe I
It
would
doesn't
stop.
matter because I told her, I was like, it could be a setup.
Bruh.
She could have
Yeah.
set your ass up.
My wife, one time, about 2-3 years ago, when the snow was real bad, and I guess her car had got like stuck over like one of the humps. You know how when the car gets stuck in the snow? So some dude came and helped her push it in. Then she let the dude come in and get a glass of water. Bruh. Ooh. I was like, how can you trust somebody that much?
you guys, I don't know. Why have we really got to the point where we can't trust anyone anymore?
Yes,
Yes.
I don't know. I find that heartbreaking.
it is, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And you know what's so crazy? A guy will have unprotected sex with a girl he don't know. You'll trust.
Segue.
I'm just saying, you'll trust that, but you won't help somebody on the side of the
Or
road.
you'll meet somebody in the club and let them come to your house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right.
Or let them come to your hotel room. But now that's crazy to me.
I can't wait to read this book.
It's a couple years off. I gotta.
A couple years out.
So you'll be waiting for a while, but no, it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to it. I have a little break before I have to do the next season of my podcast. So I'm gonna try and put that to good use.
You know what I love about you, Malcolm? You always hear like people say, create things that are bigger than you. And I feel like all your books are bigger than you, and you don't mind. Like, you're not trying to be the guy in the forefront. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've been lucky. They've all had a kind of taken on a life of their own. But I've always said, if you create something, you're no longer in control of it, right? So once it's out there, and you should walk away and let the world do with it. If the world wants to forget about it and bury it, fine. If the world wants to celebrate it, that's also fine. But you can't sort of continue to try and control the process or take credit for it, or I'll get too carried away by what happens to it.
What's bringing you more fulfillment now? Because I do see you, seems like you're out there a little bit more. What brings you more fulfillment? The podcast, public speaking, or the books?
I think podcasts are just so fun. And I just love the idea that, someone came up to me on the street yesterday and was like, I'm listening to you right now. I just thought that was really, because it's the same feeling. I've often thought, when you're a writer and you write a book, you know that people read it somewhere. And so you get a certain kind of charge out of that. But somehow the idea that someone is listening to your voice is more personal and special. It's the feeling, I'm not a musician, but I always wonder if you're a musician and you walk down the street and you hear one of your songs, what that must feel like. It must feel amazing, right? To hear something you did sort of out in the world and anyway, so I get a little bit of a kick out of the fact that that I'm inside somebody's ear.
That's funny. Sometimes I get embarrassed if somebody's listening to my podcast.
No, don't. Why would you get embarrassed?
It's all about sex, and sometimes it's really nasty.
Well, if you're embarrassed by that, why do you do it?
No, I mean, I do it because I like it. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's me and my friends talking about real life experiences. But I don't necessarily like for people to listen to it in front of me. Like,
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because there's something so intimate about voices. Right? That's the thing.
That's interesting you say that, because I never get that feeling with radio, only because, we have guests on. So somebody be like, oh, I'm listening to your interview with Malcolm Gladwell. So it's like they're here for the guests. But I get that feeling with my book. When people walk up on me with my book, I'm like, oh, this is me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different feeling.
What was that like? The experience of putting your book out in the world?
Malcolm, you know.
No, I don't know what it was like for you.
I can't remember.
Because that was a very personal book.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt really good. Like, just to hear people read your story and be empowered by your story. Because I understand the transformative power of books, and I know how certain books and certain people's stories impacted my life. So to have that on other people is very fulfilling. It feels fulfilling. It's a fulfilling feeling.
Were you concerned that anybody would be upset about how they were portrayed or anything? Did you think about that?
No.
You don't care what he said on the radio. You think you care what he put that
I'm just
book?
wondering.
I can't get over how, first of all, you made a lot more sense to me when I learned about your parents. How on earth did they get together? It's the most fascinating pair of personalities.
Yeah. And I still don't know. And I mean, I have that sense of discovery in the book, because, and that's why I always tell, parents, like, we need to teach our kids about who we were before we were parents, because a lot of us don't think our parents had a life before us. And I still don't know. I still haven't sat down and had that conversation. So how did y'all meet? But
and when you have two, that's where you come from. Like, when you have two totally different characters, like, get together and combine on something, you end up with something interesting. I mean, that's to me what the book is about. Right?
Yeah.
It's I was fascinated by it.
Yeah, Malcolm hit me up, and Malcolm said, I love seeing you on the New York Times bestsellers list next to all these boring white people.
That's right. That list, until you hit it, that list was like, it was like a master list of the most boring white guys in the country. It's like, let's come up with another.
It's been spicy the past few weeks, though, because Kevin Hart's on there, Trevor Noah's popped back on there.
That's right. It's
spicy. All right. Well, Malcolm Gladwell, we appreciate you for joining us.
Revisionist History is out now.
That's right. The podcast.
You know what? I did want to ask him, what do you think about the state of America? Because we haven't talked to you in a minute. The way things have been going.
Has it gotten better since I was last on, or worse?
No. Any hope?
I think. Well, you last time I was on, you said that Trump was the white guy's Hail Mary.
Well, Hail Mary passed.
And I have been repeating that those words of hope to everyone I can. I always give you credit.
Yeah.
No, it's getting worse.
Terrible. Yeah. No hope. It's over. Like, damn, that's it.
I'm like I always said, I'm Canadian. I have an out.
We're doing good in Canada.
Goodness gracious. Well, there
Come
you
to
have it.
Canada.
Malcolm Gladwell is the Breakfast Club. Good morning.